President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State has sparked controversy. The declaration made on March 18, 2025 was meant to address the escalating crisis between Governor Sim Fubara and 27 of the House of Assembly in the state, led by Martin Umaule. As a result, Governor Fubara's deputy and all members of the Rivers State House of Assembly were suspended for an initial period of 6 months. Vice Admiral Ibokete Abias was appointed as administrator to oversee the affairs of the state during this period. Constitutional lawyer and human rights advocate Barrister Chinedu Keke has weighed in on the issue, discussing the legal implication of the declaration in an interview with, a platform. Now, this movement has also been compared to previous instances of state emergencies in Nigeria, highlighting the unique circumstances surrounding this declaration. On the show today, I'll be speaking with Ann-Kio Briggs. She's a Niger Delta activist. She joins virtually from Rivers. I'll also be speaking with Nick Ogule, who's a public affairs analyst who joins in virtually from Abuja. Gents, thank you so much for your time. All right, let me start with you, Ms. Briggs. What we are seeing in Rivers State right now, the declaration of emergency by Mr. President on the state, and also the suspension of the governor of the state, his deputy, and the lawmakers of the State House. Do you think that Mr. President stepped out of line?
When we have listened to all the different analysis coming from the lawyers, expert lawyers in constitutional law, lawyers in the issues of what should be done under the Section 305 by the President. And if you look at how long this has taken to get to this place, and how long the President himself had attempted to intervene, one begins to wonder and conclude that these things were being taken stage by stage. It looks very much like a planned activity destined to take stage by stage to achieve against the people of Rivers State. We definitely do not believe that what has happened so far was necessary enough to declare a state of emergency in a state as critical as Rivers State. And if you look at the reason that was given finally, the Attorney General of the Federation had said categorically that the governor of Rivers State was teleguiding the explosion, and that this is the major reason that this was declared. And if you look at the report that has come up from the Renaissance Company, that has now said in Punch today that really no explosion had taken place per se at that particular point, you begin to wonder what game is being played with the people of Rivers State, and who really are the people playing this game with Rivers people, using, if you like, the gentleness, the quietness, and the willingness of the governor of Rivers State to be peaceful in everything that he has done, with the 27 persons that crossed over to PDP from APC from PDP, and the role that the FCT minister has also played in the past 1 year, 1.5 years, leading up to a situation where Rivers State is now under the administration of a retired naval officer. It's very worrisome.
Let me of course, direct the same question to Nick Agule, a public affairs analyst. It's great to have you, sir. What's your take? Did Mr. President step out of line?
Thank you very much. And I'm quite happy to be on stage with my co-panelist, someone I admire from a distance, for her doggedness in fighting for our democracy and human rights. What is happening in Nigeria is that our democracy is under attack. Unfortunately, our democracy is being attacked by the very people who have sworn by holy books, be it the Bible or the Quran, whichever faith they follow, to defend the same constitution that they are desecrating. And the issues that have culminated in this state of emergency has been declared have shown that the three arms of government, which is the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, have fallen below expectations in the conduct of their activities. It started with the Supreme Court. As I understand it, I'm not a lawyer, but as I understand it, the 27 lawmakers in Rivers State took the Rivers State government to court at the Federal High Court. And the issue of jurisdiction of that court to hear the case came up. And that jurisdiction was then taken to the appeal court and then to the Supreme Court. And what is expected is that the Supreme Court only needed to have adjudicated on whether the Federal High Court has jurisdiction or not. And if the Supreme Court said the Federal High Court has jurisdiction, then the case would have returned back to the Federal High Court for trial. But in giving that appeal decision, the Supreme Court decided to adjudicate on the substantive matters that are before the Federal High Court to say that the lawmakers are legitimate and the allocation to Rivers State should be blocked and all of that. And as we speak, the Federal High Court, which is the court of first instance, has reserved judgment in the substantive matter. So, I mean, how does that work? That a Supreme Court assumes a case that is not yet before them and adjudicate on it. But even at that, the Rivers State governor started to implement the decisions of the Supreme Court, and then Mr. President takes matters into his hands by declaring a state of emergency, which is within his constitutional rights to declare. However, the conditions precedent to that declaration were not there, which of course is that the Rivers State is not in a state of war. Rivers State was not experiencing a breakdown in law and order. There is no major crisis like a health crisis and things like that. Even COVID-19 came to Nigeria, there was no declaration of a state of emergency, which normally should have been a ground. So without those grounds for declaration of a state of emergency, Mr. President now goes ahead to declare a state of emergency, which, okay, we can concede because he has a constitutional right to do so. But there is nowhere in the Constitution that provides for the suspension of democratically elected officials at any of the tiers of government, whether federal, state, or local government, through a declaration of a state of emergency, right? The provisions of the Constitution are clear as to how elected officials at the federal, state, and local government can be removed from office. And then Mr. President, not only that, goes ahead to now appoint an ex-military man to come and be administrator. Administrator is a strange word in our Constitution. In all the 320 sections of Nigeria Constitution, there is nothing there that is named administrator of a state. And then the National Assembly, who then are supposed to be the voice of Nigeria, because we sent them to the National Assembly to represent us, decided to carry out a tirade to say that they are going to use a voice vote.
Nick, we'll get to the role of the National Assembly in all of this that is happening, in the nation. But let me just leave you for a moment. Hold your thoughts there. I'd like to bring into the conversation Mr. Olawale Okuni is the Director General for the National Consultative Front. He joins virtually from Lagos. It's good to have you, Mr. Okuni.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be with you again, and good evening, Nigerians.
Good evening, sir. So, I mean, what we are seeing in River State and what Mr. President did do just a few days back, suspending the government of River State and replacing it with a sole administrator, and also declaring a state of emergency, you know, in Rivers. Many Nigerians, of course, have been reacting. For some, they feel that Mr. President did step out of line, while for others, they feel, oh, it's a peculiar situation that needed an unusual approach. What's your stance?
Well, for me and for us in the consultative front, the action of the president was totally out of place and inappropriate and even premature, and it could precipitate an unwanted crisis. It's out of place in our constitutional democracy. By that I mean the 1999 Constitution as amended. There was no, or there is no portion or section of the Constitution that gives the powers to the president to remove or suspend an elected official of government, especially in the states. So that intervention of the presidency was a bit skipped out of place and doesn't have a place in our constitutional democracy. And therefore, I feel it should be tactically reversed so that we can have a field of peace in Rivers.
Okay, let me leave you for a moment, Mr. Okuni, and let me come back to you, Ms. Briggs. Ms. Briggs, in your line of thought, you said that it appears that they took the gentleness of the governor of the state and took advantage of it in person of Sim Fubara, you know, and this happened. But for some Nigerians who, of course, you know, are observing the trend, do you think that Governor Fubara, you know, acted weak in this, you know, drama that we see unfold? Because some would say if maybe it was certain politicians, this would not even have happened in the first place. Certain politicians might not have left that office, and they will stand their ground and say, the law says I was elected, and the only people that can remove me is the House. And they would insist that Mr. President did, you know, act out of line. So I want to ask you, did Governor Fubara, you know, act weak as the #1 citizen of the state?
I would not say that Governor Fubara is a weak man. It takes a very strong man to have put up with what Governor Semilaye Fubara has had to put up with. If we recall, the very president today was once a governor of Lagos State. And he was confronted with a similar situation. And he, like you put it, he stood his ground. Governor Semilaye Fubara, at the beginning of all of these things, found himself, if you like, trapped, because he's facing a house where 27 members were against him. He was facing a situation where the former governor has an appointment at federal level and really leaves his appointment and comes into into River State and makes life difficult for him at every stage. When the president first called them and they went to the villa, he had to sign 2 pieces of papers that were not constitutional in any way, shape, or form. Yes, the president was called upon for the sake of peace to no time
We seem to have a bit of connectivity issues with you, Ma. We're unable to hear you properly. maybe we'll try to adjust that, and then I'll definitely come back to you. But if you can hear me, we're unable to hear you well, so we might just need to adjust that. But let me direct the same question to Nick. Nick, I'd like to ask you the same question. Did Governor Fubara, did they appear weak in all of this? Some even said maybe he was even ill-advised and maybe not as experienced as many or some politicians in the game.
Of course, Governor Fubara, I try to imagine that if it was former Governor Wike that was in the shoes of Governor Fubara, what could he have done? I could have seen Governor Wike trying to splinter the 27 House of Assembly members so that he can get some on his side. And then he could have probably taken some other measures that would have, totally muted the opposition to him and all of that. And then, of course, the other side is the political solution where you could go and have a political understanding and things like that. But the bottom line here for me is that I am actually so surprised about the attitude of the young people of Nigeria towards this case.
I think we have a bit of connectivity issues with Nick. We lost him. I'm sure once we have Nick back, we'll take his landing thoughts. But let's bring in the same question to Mr. Olawale Okuni, Director General for the National Consultative Front. What's your perception of how Governor Fubara did handle all of this? Even though he appeared strong at the initial stage, but for many who observe the political, trend and happening in Rivers, they feel that he kind of chickened out. He could have stood his ground and acted as the #1 citizen of the state, and just, held it, just like maybe the way Mr. President did many years ago when he was governor of Lagos State.
Well, for me, Governor Fubara, given his experience, maybe couldn't have done more than what he's done so far. His experience is not been in politics for a long time, and so his experience we count in this case. And that is why we find out, we can see that he's not been very firm and in firm control of the politics leading to this state. That's a function of experience in politics. If you look at or try to analyze the Tinubu days in Lagos, you know that Tinubu, coming from the background of Nadepo, was a bit well equipped than Fubara, So we grow up on the job. Governorship office is a political office, and he has to learn to be fair and savvy when it comes to politics. So, it's a function of experience, as life itself is a school, and experience is the school teacher, as my father of the blessed memory said. So that is my take, that he will grow on the job, he will grow in his intervention. He's done what he can do, given his experience. But I think that experience notwithstanding, or his firmness, we should do what is constitutional and legitimate. And the federal government has not acted in good faith so far. Has acted prematurely, and that is not good for our democracy. As a matter of fact, the presidency can be seen by keen observer as being partial in his intervention. Maybe because Rivers is under an opposition government, the PDP, for instance. maybe that is why. And then, well, in politics, everything is everything is right.
Okay.
Every weapon, every is right in politics. So
Okay.
that is what we are seeing playing
Okay.
out.
Okay.
We should really reverse this.
Okay.
Experience or no experience, we should not lay bad precedent. The intervention of the presidency could have been different. Even when you envisage a state of emergency, it could mean that you focus the attention of the federal government on reverse. You don't have to suspend or remove elected official. You may have to intervene in such a way that some of the policies, governance, and legislation in rivers will have to be approved or ratified by the National Assembly.
All right, Mr. Wale Okene. I mean, you really were pretty much extensive in your analysis, but we'll go on a very short and quick break. When we return, we'll extend this conversation to look at the role of the FCT minister. I mean, if you look at the crux of the matter in Rivers State in recent times is between the governor, that's the current governor, and the immediate past governor, the FCT minister. We'll look at his role in all of this, and also the role of the National Assembly post the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers. Really, was it in good faith or in the good light or good books of Nigerians? We'll look at that and more once we return. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Politics HQ, and of course we are looking at the state of emergency declaration by Mr. President in Rivers State and the suspension of the government there and replacement for a period of 6 months, a sole administrator. Well, I still have my guest with me, Ann-Kio Briggs, Niger Delta activist. She joins virtually from Rivers State. I also have Nick Agule, a public affairs analyst, joining virtually from Abuja, and Olawale Okuni, Director General for the National Consultative Front, joining virtually from Lagos. Well, let me stay with you, Nick. You were trying to establish a point when we lost you for a moment, but I'd like you to add to your response this. Mr. President's speech did not highlight or did not even hint in any way the role of the FCT minister and person of Wike in all of this. I mean, I'd like your take on that. Was that speech balanced?
The speech was not balanced. Neither the explanation that was put forward by the Attorney General of the Federation was balanced, because the former governor of Rivers State, now FCT minister, has not hidden his role in the crisis in Rivers State. In fact, Mr. President invited PANDEF, the Pan-Ijaw movement, to the villa, and he had a meeting with them. And after that meeting, Mr. Wike called a press conference at which he read insults on the Ijaw leaders. That is an act of insubordination. A group of people that your own boss called to his office and had a meeting with, you now call a press conference and rubbish them. So inevitably, he was rubbishing his boss, Mr. President, for talking to people who are more or less like 419 people are not legitimate. So Mr. Wike has never hidden his role in what is happening in Rivers State. And for Mr. President not to mention him, the Attorney General not to mention him, let me just be modest by saying it is shameful. At the end of the day, for me, it is the people of Nigeria whose democracy is being trampled upon and desecrated that need to come off and fight for their democracy. You see, that is the problem we have in Nigeria. We are building strong men who are overpowering our institutions. And in any society where strong men overpower institutions, that society isn't going to work. So Nigerians, instead of our country not doing well, and then we are either spending money to send our families abroad, or those who can't are in the Sahara Desert trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea to go to. Why can't we put in all those efforts and restore our democracy so that it is a government of the people, for the people, and by the people? Because if we watch and see our democratic institutions desecrated and there's nothing we're going to do about it, we cannot at the same time sit back and expect to enjoy dividends of democracy. So this fight is for us. It mustn't be a fight for Fubara. It mustn't be a fight for Wike. It must be a fight for our democratic institutions, because our constitution has created the office of the governor, created the state assembly, and created the judiciary. It didn't create Wike. So why are we fighting for Wike if you went to an agreement and that agreement has fallen into the water now?
I mean, talking about agreements, I'd like to move to you, Ms. Briggs. Talking about the role of the FCT minister in the political tension in Rivers that, of course, led to the build-up or led to the declaration of a state of emergency. The Attorney General of the Federation, according to some Nigerians, feel that it was absorbed of wrongdoing. I mean, the AGF, for instance, sort of insinuated that the FCT minister cannot be held liable for any actions or decisions taken regarding the state of emergency in Rivers. What's your take on this? We seem to, we are unable to hear you. We're having a bit of difficulty with your audio. We would definitely come back to you, Ma, if you can hear me. But let me direct the same question to Mr. Olawale Okuni. I mean, the role of the FCT minister in all of this.
Well, for me, the FCT minister is culpable in this whole saga. He is, as a matter of fact, the main actor in the crisis, poisoning the crisis. He, as a former governor of Rivers State, virtually imposed the current governor on the state, and therefore wanted some loyalty in terms of, feedback, report back to him and the rest. And that was what generated this crisis. And we have evidences where the FCT minister have directly, been involved in the crisis.
You said directly involved.
Even involved directly.
How?
Whether, for instance, in the resolution of the crisis by the presidency, he was invited and he was involved. He was part of the parties invited for the resolution of the crisis with the president. And he's made statements that were very outlandish and quite offensive, even against Fubara. And he continued to call the shots among the lawmakers. As a matter of fact, the lawmakers that were engaging Fubara were reporting back to Wiki and kowtowing to his instructions. So there is no way you would have intervened in this matter without suspending or taking an action or scolding or rebooking the actions and the old interference of the FCT minister in what was going on in Rivers.
All
so
right.
I find the excuse very unacceptable, the excuse given by the Attorney General. There is no way you would resolve this matter without dealing with Wiki. And the fact that they are protecting...
Maybe I should just ask you directly too. Mr. Olawale Okuni, do you think that the FCT minister should have been suspended? Or maybe removed from office?
Well, we looking at this matter, it feels that if you must foist an emergency rule in Rivers, the FCT minister ought to have been called to order in a way, by way of suspension or something, so that you don't leave him to begin to ride roughshod on other stakeholders, acting like a political bull in the China shop.
All right.
And so we are saying that if you must resolve this crisis, the presidency must do something about your becoming behavior and attitude,
Mr. Okuni,
and actions.
Mr. Okuni, let me leave you.
Minister.
Great. Let me leave you for a moment and see if we can connect to Ms. Briggs. Ms. Briggs, you were trying to establish your point as regards the role of the FCT minister in all of this. I mean, in lieu of what the AGF did say, and maybe he should have also, been suspended or maybe even removed from office.
Well, absolutely. You cannot suspend two persons, two people, the group of 27, the governor. You suspend the two, and then you don't suspend the person, the FCT minister, that is actually spearheading the whole of this crisis, as and when it pleases him. When he wants to insult, he insults people, he abuses elders, he creates scenarios that are very frustrating and could anger anybody to react, and yet you make it seem as if all of this has got nothing to do with him, where he continues to claim, actually, that he is responsible, if you like, for what is going on in River State, when he says things like, I will not forgive the governor. The governor is ungrateful. I put him there. When he says these infuriating things and talks down to a particular ethnic nationality, he called them toothless bulldogs. I mean, so when the president hears all these things, and you quite rightly mentioned, or the other guy mentioned Pandef. I was in that meeting with Pandef, with the president. And Mr. President kept us waiting for nearly 2 hours. I have never heard about a situation like that. He never apologized for keeping former governors of River State, elder statesmen, traditional rulers. I don't think that the Niger Delta people deserve the disrespect that the FCT minister has guaranteed him that is perfectly all right. I mean, the president is perfectly all right to do. You now jump ahead and go to the what the senators and the House of Representatives did. I mean, the president did everything backward. He did not allow the Senate to discuss it. He went ahead and swore in a sole administrator, which lawyers, I'm not a lawyer, which lawyers and constitutional lawyers have agreed is unconstitutional. It was not discussed. You have sworn the man in, and Fubra had said that he was going to obey what the court had said, even though the court had no business determining whether the 27 people that had crossed over were really still lawmakers or not lawmakers. They had no business making a proclamation or a decision on that. And yet the governor of River State agreed that he was going to do everything that the Supreme Court had said And before we
Ms.
could
Briggs,
do that, they had disagreed with the letter he had written. They locked him out. So how is he supposed to present the budget to them?
Okay.
How is he supposed to obey the law?
Ms. Briggs, I'm sorry to interrupt your line of thought, but because we're really pressed for time, I'd just like you to ask a direct question at you. You said you were in that meeting with the PANDEF leaders with Mr. President, where you had to wait for about 2 hours before you got some sort of audience. And we know that in that press conference that the FCT minister did grant, it sort of gave PANDEF a bloody nose with some comments.
Yes.
I mean, as a daughter of the Niger Delta and even a member of that association, my question to you is this. What if you were to meet the FCT minister now, what would you tell him?
I will say to him that whatever he had planned and put in place with the collaboration of the president, that so far he has gotten what he wants. But it's not over until it is over. Justice must not only be seen to be done, justice must be done. The people of Rivers State, as he well knows, and particularly the Ijaw ethnic nationality, that he so disrespects, are part of the people that made him the governor that he became, and where he served 2 tenures, where nobody gave him any stress. And we are really surprised and angry as to why the FCT minister thinks that we deserve what he is doing to Rivers State, that unless he is the one calling the shot for a sitting governor, then everything can go to blazes. As long as he doesn't get his way, everything must crumble in Rivers State. I want to say to the president directly that this sort of attitude that he has allowed to go on by his minister in Rivers State is not going to it's not going to end well, because we're human beings with flesh and with blood. And therefore, the governor has all the support he needs. We have made this clear several times. The governor of Rivers State, Semela Efobra, has the support of the majority of the people of Rivers State. I also want to add that the deputy governor of Rivers State, whom have been brought into this at this stage, had nothing to do, if you like, with what was going on in Rivers State, because at no time was her name mentioned. She is the deputy of the governor, but at no time was her name mentioned. Now, if you want to suspend the governor and he has a deputy, then the right thing to do is that the deputy will take over while the discussion about the suspension of the governor goes ahead. And yet the governor, the deputy governor, the 25 whose case, as far as I am concerned, is still not concluded, irrespective of what the Supreme Court has said in a case that had nothing whatsoever to do with them. Okay. And that's why I said earlier in our conversation that everything we're going through in Rivers State today is being orchestrated by people within and without of Rivers State. And it's not going to end well, because Rivers people will stand for their right. Okay. The Senate has disgracefully let the people who elected them down, and so down that I doubt they should be allowed to come back.
All right. Now, talking about the Senate, quickly, I'm coming to you right now, Mr. Nick Agule. Now, the Senate, what we saw, not just the Senate this time, the National Assembly, did they act in accordance to the rule of law and the Constitution of which they swore to act by on this matter. What we saw yesterday as regards the declaration of a state of emergency and the suspension of the governor of the state and other elected officials of the state, did they act in accordance with the Constitution of the land which they swore to stand by? Did you see that happen yesterday?
They did not act in accordance with the Constitution. They desecrated the Constitution. They actually took Nigerians for a ride, and they put up a shameful macabre of a dance before the whole world. Nigeria has set a record by the very action of this National Assembly as a people who can mathematically determine 2/3 of a number by voice vote. So maybe children in school don't even need to take their calculators and do mathematics again. If you say, what is 2/3 of 100? They can just do voice vote and give you the answer, you know? So this is what has happened in National Assembly. But you see, the people in the National Assembly, like my co-panelist, Ms. Briggs has said, they were sent there by us Nigerians. And you know, we Nigerians are watching this thing happen, and it looks as if we are powerless. No, we are not powerless. The Constitution of Nigeria, as it stands today, as defective as it is, still gives us humongous powers over these people who are presiding over us. So the Constitution gives powers to the National Assembly and state assemblies to impeach executives who are running roughshod on our Constitution. And if they can't impeach them, then we, the people of Nigeria, have the powers to bring them back home from the National Assembly or state assembly, so that we can send people who can do our bidding. And so for me, sitting here, is for Nigerians to begin to collect signatures in all the 109 senatorial districts and the 360 House of Rep districts in Nigeria to bring
So quickly, what you are saying, Mr. Nick, is that Nigerians should start.
Succeed.
All right. So what you're suggesting, just to get you correctly, and so that we can move on this, are you suggesting that Nigerians start to recall their reps across the House?
Nigerians must take this thing into their hands. Our country is being desecrated. Our democracy is being run down. We cannot enjoy Nigeria if we don't have a democracy. That is a mistake that a lot of Nigerians are making.
All right, quickly.
You can never have a democracy if individuals are too strong for the institutions that we have.
All right, because we need to go.
To defend our democracy, we must bring these people back home now.
All right.
Recall them, bring them back home, so that we can send those who can do our bidding to the various houses of assembly at the state and federal levels.
All right, Mr. Okuni, finally, I mean, your thoughts on this, the role of the House of Assembly, that's the National Assembly, in 30 seconds.
The National Assembly have not acted honorably, especially on the side of the mandate given to them by the people
I was trying to tell you
of Nigeria.
Okay.
And therefore, we need to interrogate further whether we have a legislature that is effective in the country, because they appear to me to be a rubber stamp legislature, in which case anything goes, and where money moves around, that is the end. So therefore, the legislature, or the parliament in Nigeria should try and improve. It should try and improve on the side of the people.
All right.
However, I wish to say that there was no basis for even replacing the governor with deputy governor. The actual fact is that there is no place in our constitution where an elected official will be replaced or removed or by another elected official. No place.
All right.
So that is totally unconstitutional and out of place.
All right. We need to go. Thank you so much for your time. Miss Ann-Kio Briggs, Niger Delta activist, thank you so much for joining in. And also Nick Agule, public affairs analyst, joining virtually from Abuja. Thank you so much. Mr. Olawale Okuni, Director General of the National Consultative Front joining virtually from Lagos. It's been a pleasure, gentlemen and lady. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you very much.
And this, of course, is where we drop the curtain on today's episode. In case you missed out, you can catch up on our YouTube platform. That's at News Central TV. You can also choose to follow us across social media with the same handle, at News Central TV. We are live on GoTV, channel 23. You can choose to follow us there. You can choose to also follow me personally, at Dakpo Adigboyi. Until I come your way again, good night.